One of the beauties of punting, betting, gambling, sticking your head over the parapet, following a few over cliffs, is the multiplicity of mildly insane characters you come across. And I'm sat down here in one of Chelsea's poshest and grandest pubs, and I'm sat with Neil Channing, who has led a life of rock and roll, roller coaster, up and downs in punting. Neil, how are you still going? Your age of 51. You've done your brains in the past spectacularly. You won the biggest poker competitions in the world. What are you doing now, and how do you get here? When do you start?
Well, I'm doing a lot of punting still, definitely. That's a daily routine.
So how do you get into it when you were young?
We lived near Ascot Racecourse when I was like, I don't know, about 8 years old. And
you were born when you were 8 years old?
Well, up until then I wasn't doing much punting, but our school generally, you know, you would kind of skive off to go to Royal Ascot, and you'd see your history teacher and look a bit guilty, and they'd look back and look even more furtive.
Yeah.
And
neither of you were meant to be there.
Neither of you were meant to be there. And yeah, I used to go on the Heath for £1, and I think it was 50p actually to get in.
Out in the middle on the Heath.
Amazing,
yeah. That's how we all started.
Sometimes you'd see something win a neck in a photo, and because the bookie from Doncaster needed to lay it, to balance his book for some reason, you could get sort of 4 to 6 that he'd won in the photo, when, you know.
But were mum and dad punters, or did you just come up with it as a bolt from the blue?
My dad was he was quite, they were both quite working class, and my dad was definitely a working class boy made good. So by the time I was kind of teenage, he was like the marketing director of the company he'd started right at the bottom with. And he had to keep taking clients to the races. And I used to drag you along? Yeah, I used to go along, and he would say to, I remember one year at the Oaks, it was the Oh So Sharp year.
Yeah.
They had a little syndicate, all the fellas on the marketing team. And I was sent down to the ring with about 300 quid. I started going racing pretty much every day, and I got to about 28 years old and lights out. Said to my mum and dad, you know, I had a bit of a hitch, might need to move in. The pub was long gone by then. They were down in Bournemouth, and they said, well, you know, you can.
God's waiting room.
Yeah, absolutely. They said, you can come and live here, but you do have to get a job. Those are the rules.
Job.
Yeah, that was a bit awkward. I remember, luckily, I had flu when I first moved in, so that was a good excuse not to pursue any kind of career. And I laid in bed, and John Park won the World Darts Championship. I'd never heard of him, but he won the first round 3-0, and he said that he bet on himself. And I liked the cut of his jib, so straight down to Corals, bid of 16 to 1. And that kind of put the whole job thing on the back burner for a few more weeks. Yeah, I guess by then I was a regular Cheltenham attender. I probably went as a punter most years then. And there was a fella who was a bookmaker at Portsmouth Dogs, who used to come to Pool Dogs, where I was a regular attender. And he was called Ross Jackson. And one of my earliest Cheltenham memories was him having 100 grand on Beach Road the second year, not the year when it won at 50 to 1, the year when Crebensis beat it.
Yes.
He had 100 grand at 2 to 1. And
how did he get that on?
Reddies, in a carrier bag. It was the best thing I'd ever seen in my life. I just wanted to be him.
Or even the carrier bag.
Yeah, pretty much. And then it got chinned. So put me right off. I was going to back Crebensis. It put me off, actually.
I remember Freddie Williams standing in his pitch with 280 grand in the bin liner underneath it.
It's sick, isn't it, when you think about it? We used to, I mean, years later,
well, it's not sick. Those are the days when the betting ring was a place of fizz and activity.
Well, now, actually,
now it's about as sterile as an operating
It makes me
theatre.
sad that the world is going cashless, actually. I'm quite upset about that. I do like to have some readies.
Well, you see, that's a generational thing. My kids would never, you know, they might have a bet on the phone, but cash, no.
I know, it's terrible. Well, I wish I
Cash
could,
is for laundry.
I wish I could still have a bet on the phone occasionally.
And you've had some extraordinary ups and downs, and other punters don't want to hear about how clever you are. They want to hear about the things that go wrong. But you did win a spectacular poker competition.
Yes. 2008. I was on a bit of an uptick at the time, and I'd played a few poker tournaments that year.
Slide.
There have been some snakes along the way. I'd been the year before to play the Irish Open, and it was tremendous fun.
Where they hold that? Is that
in a hotel in Dublin. Yeah. And it was Easter weekend. I mean, it's unbelievable.
But you didn't get crucified?
Well, no, and an amazing place, really. Good Friday, legally you can't buy a drink. The whole town was on tilt the whole weekend. And it was $3,000 to buy in. I was 200 to 1 at the start of the tournament. There was about 700 people in it. And Paddy's made me 100 to 1 after day one. Well, there was only 40% of the people left, and I was up in the top rank. So I had a monkey on, 100 to 1. And he came, the fellow who they call Paddy Power, I don't know, is he really called Paddy Power? I don't know. Anyway, he turned up.
I don't think he's called Aloysius Power.
He turned up to present me with a huge comedy check, and he come straight from the Irish National, and I whispered sweet, I said to him, oh dear, I said, I wouldn't ring the office if I was you. They're sitting on at 500 at 100 to 1. And he sort of grinned at me. But yes, it was
But you won the competition?
I did, yes.
And what did that bring in?
€800,000, yeah.
So but you're back into horses mainly?
Yes, yes, definitely.
What about football?
Lots of football, bit of NFL. And yeah, you know, I'm not averse to losing money on rugby and cricket occasionally. But yeah,
bread and butter's horses.
Primarily horses. Yeah,
Jumps, flat, everything.
Everything. Although, if you ask me, that's a good question, Alastair. If you ask me which I prefer out of you know, the first day of Royal Ascot, the first day of Cheltenham, or the first day of the World Series of Poker, I would probably say Cheltenham. So I think it is jumps.
Is that partly a sort of emotional thing with jump racing?
Well, yeah.
I mean, can't people like you have emotions?
No, I definitely have emotions. I mean, I was I wasn't born in Ascot, but I was brought up there, and I still have friends that live there. So I have an emotional tie to Ascot, and Royal Ascot is still very special. But I still think, I think in terms of the memories of the actual races, I don't know whether it's the hill, or the fact that you can really get some proper, well, you can get proper money on at Royal Ascot. I've had some nice touches at Cheltenham, and when I look back, I sort of remember a few of those.
Like?
Oh God, that's awful, isn't it? I can't remember the name of the bloody horse. The Jim Colotti horse that won the Gold Cup a few years ago.
Yeah. What
the hell was that called? I had an enormous bet on that.
Hang on.
Lord Windermere.
Yeah, Lord Windermere.
And do you know, I was on the phone
Never
to
going
somebody.
to win it till it passes.
I know. I was on the phone to somebody during the steward's inquiry, and I was tranquil.
When Jim was asking me, will I keep it, will I keep it? I said, yes, you will.
It was a decent 6 figures, and I was...
Rather than an indecent.
It was quite decent, quite decent. I was so calm, it was unbelievable. I had a fella who hadn't worked for me much before, and I started him off that way. My main guy was totally barred from Chinatown. So I put this fella into Chinatown, and I met him in a pub in Maida Vale in the evening, and he'd already called me and said, they've all run out of money. I'm gonna, because it was an enormous day. I bet Tiger Roll, you know, that horse.
Legend.
He's winning everything, isn't he? I bet him to win the Triumph Hurdle.
I was there the night he was bought.
Yeah, amazing, really. And he said to me, this guy, he said, well, I've collected all the Gold Cup money, but they've run out. I haven't got the Triumph Hurdle money yet. And I watched that guy's eyeballs, and he said, I've literally never seen anything like this. And, yeah, that all lived.
What was the haul that day?
Well, yeah, that guy had more than 100 out of Chinatown.
You've lived by this all your life since you were 8.
Yeah.
What about Cheltenham's strategy? Is there any advice you give to a simple piece of advice?
Okay, well, I love the 16-runner handicaps. I think they're the best thing. You can still get the quarter first 4.
Medium, yeah.
And don't be embarrassed to back 3 or 4 in a race. I think that's absolutely fine in those races. And maybe, you know, don't level stake. I never would level stake. There are some races I go bananas in, and there are other races I just mess about in. So.
And you wouldn't be frightened of a price at Cheltenham either?
Oh, I mean, Lord Windermere. I mean, I didn't shy away from that.
No.
That was my biggest bet of the day. And if it's a big price, I'm not a huge one for betting odds on at Cheltenham.
No, I haven't had an odds on bet for 50 years.
I'm trying to remember now. I don't remember the last odds on bet I had there. I'm not averse to having an odds on bet at Plumpton on a wet Monday, but
It's got to be wet.
yeah, well, it always was when I was making a book there. No, I think you're right. Yeah, if you fancy one at a big price. You know, I mean, I hate to say it, but you know they're all trying, and yeah, I mean, funny things do happen, don't they, at Cheltenham? It's definitely yeah, I'm not averse to that.
You put quite a few quid into Cheltenham pitches.
Yeah.
And he didn't really get off to what you call a flyer.
Well, we used to bet. I was a partner with another guy who had a pitch for years in the Silver Ring, and we made money every year. It was great. So I thought, well, this is it. I want a big Charlie, big bollocks now. So I'm going to buy a pitch in Tattersalls. And we didn't want to mess around. We thought we'd get one near the front. You know, that seems like the best place to take money. So it was about, I think it was 44 grand. I don't know what number that got us, but it meant effectively, because some people chose to go in the second row and whatever, that you could be about 5 across from Freddie Williams, 2 up from Barry Dennis. So that was it. And
so noisy, was it?
Yeah, it was pretty noisy. Yeah, he was always a big fan of mine, Barry. Oh, God. Anyway, the ink was barely dry on the check, and suddenly the old foot and mouth kicks in.
The old sheep.
So, oh, jeez. I could have had that money. I could have been investing it for a whole year in novice hurdlers.
So you bounced. That was 2001. You bounced in 2002.
12 favourites won.
Ah.
Worst Cheltenham for bookmakers in living memory. Did my absolute brains. I remember it started off with the first race. I had a monkey each way on a horse that fell at the last in the Supreme when it was about to win. I think it was called, oh God, Attitude Adjuster, was it called? No, maybe not. It got beat by Like a Butterfly anyway. Which basically we'd laid, you know, to the world. I had 12 monkeys each way the other one, and that was the start of quite a poor week.
And what other catastrophes?
Well, in the Silver Ring, actually, I can remember a good one, if you want a good one. I mean, the Silver Ring was a whole different world, you know, it was all shrapnel and fivers and £2.50 each way and all this. And I remember one day it was bucketing it down with rain, and I thought, oh God, this is annoying. We're not going to be able to take any bets. It's going to hack it down, and the book's getting all wet and everything like that. The book was getting wet, you're right in a way. My clerk was Ben Keith, of Star Sports fame. He must have been about 11 and a half or something.
If that. Yeah.
And so he was doing the clerking, and it was the Sun Alliance Chase, and Nick Dundee was the favourite.
Norman Williamson.
I'm watching the tic-tacs and giving it a bit of the old 6-4, and I thought, well, and all the Silver Ring people, because they need to lay the favourite and it's wet and people are in the bar and stuff, they're all 7-4s, a bit of 15-08, this, that and the other. I said, well, we'll just wait. We'll wait. We won't get too carried away. We'll lay a few of the others first. And now it started to, I could see now it was going 11-08 inside. Now it's 5-4, they're giving us. I thought, well, this is it now. The 15-08's all gone, the 7-4's gone, the 13-08. Now 6-4 is the best price. I'm starting 300-2, yes, sir, you got that. 600-4, yes, down a Paddy, yes, you got that. Yes, 15-10, 15-10, 15-10, 30-20. Ben's like, oh, I can't keep up, I can't keep up. I'm like, how much have we got it for? He's got, I've got no idea. He's like, oh, quick, turn the page, it's all stuck together. Yeah. And it was absolutely, they were just about coming to the 5th last.
Yeah.
And he said, I think I know what it's for. Now, the tank that year would have been about 15 grand. He said, we've got it for 8. I was like, oh God. He said, oh, no, I've got another column I haven't done yet. Anyway, looks like trouble. It's a 2-horse race.
Yeah, no, it was
they come to, and that nasty fence, the 4th last, they had a nasty fall actually. Yeah. I didn't cheer because I do like horses and I like horse racing. But the relief was palpable.
When Nick Dundee
and Nick
crashed.
Dundee, a sad fall, a nasty fall, and
you could hear the groan.
there was not a groan on our joint.
No.
I was generally thinking to myself, if this wins, that's the end. We'll spend the whole of the rest of the day paying out, and the money to pay out was all wet and soggy.
Yeah.
Nasty. But I did. I mean, the reason I stuck at 6 to 4 was because if you go 11.08 and people have a fiver and a tenner on, what a nightmare that is for paying out. Whereas if it's 6 to 4, it's easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
25 for 10,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
15 for 10, you give them 25 quid. Very
And
easy.
you were on the wrong end of one of the most famous of the Martin
God,
Pike
don't.
gambles.
Why have you gone and mentioned that?
Well, because it's just what you deserve.
Blowing
It's a
wind.
blow below the belt.
I was probably quite
Unsinkable
naive.
boxer or blowing
Well,
wind?
both.
Yeah.
I was there for both, actually. But Blowing Wind was the particularly bad one because for some reason I didn't really fancy that. Must have been 100 to 1 him running, if they'd have had him running in those days. I mean, it was right under pressure, like 3 out. I think it was, from memory, I think we laid 11 to 4 and it got backed into 6 to 4. It was like a 22 runner handicap. How can you have a 6 to 4 favourite? It's ludicrous.
Because it's Martin Pike and he
Yeah.
sat on it for 18 months.
I don't know why
I mean,
thought
Unsinkable Boxer was a disaster.
that was a disaster as well, actually.
For everyone.
But I don't know why.
Nobody missed that.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know why I was so shocked that Martin Pike could win a competitive handicap on the bridle with one of his horses like that. Because I literally went to every meeting at Wincanton, and Newton Abbot and Taunton and Devon and Exeter. I saw it happen day in, day out. I don't know why. I went to Cheltenham and I suddenly thought this can't possibly happen. And I met Martin Pike recently and we had words. And he told me I was an absolute idiot for laying it, and it was the biggest certainty ever. I've met McCoy as well, and we've conversed about
Fair
it.
thing
yes.
for your tombstone. Pipe said he was an absolute idiot.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Thanks, Neil. And I know you've at one stage or another been ill with pancreatitis and various issues as you rocketed up and down. Do you regret a minute of it?
Yeah, I regret starting up a poker business. I kind of regret not selling the racecourse pitches a year earlier. And how did I not realise that suddenly everyone had this like
because you were D for Dumbo.
£500.
Yeah.
They had this £500 computer in their hands. What the hell did they need me with a bit of chalk for? Yeah, a few things, but you know, unfortunately, they don't tell you all that in advance, do they? It's you have to kind of make it up as you go along. I don't know. I always kind of feel like I'll stumble back if it goes wrong, and it's worked so far. I'm probably going to be living in a ditch in a year though.
But a comfortable ditch, Neil. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Alastair.
Cheers.